Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Founders Chair podcast. Andy Goldberg here, and I'm delighted to have on the show today Andrew Bowie from PeachyKeen. Andrew, welcome to the Founders Chair.
It's a pleasure. Pleasure to meet you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks so much for your time. Why don't we just start off if you can just tell us a little bit about you personally, where you're from, family, hobbies, that sort of thing, just so we get to know the real you first.
Yeah, certainly. Name's Andrew Bowie, live in Kirkcaldy, otherwise known as the Lang Toon in the county of Fife. Personal interests, quite varied into sport, fitness, human performance. The business is very important to us, and to me personally. I'd say it's a part of my life. You know, they say that if you do something you really enjoy, you don't work a day in your life. That's how I would describe myself. What would I say that would be of interest to everybody? My background really is in IT. I've always been into innovation and technology, and that has transpired into where I am just now. I've worked in various sectors, from police, corporate, even in retail. I did a stint in Marks and Spencer's, would you believe, as a golden bean barista to enable me to start this company. So that was completely different from what people were used to seeing me doing. So everything's led on to this moment where I involved with PeachyKeen, and it's a part of my life, and I'm most appreciative for it because I meet some fantastic people. An example of this is today, and we seem to attract wonderful people as well. So it piques my interest, and very motivated and motivated by other people. So very, very blessed.
And all of these experiences and all your life has led up to this moment where you get to be interviewed by me on the Founders Chair.
Absolutely, yes.
Amazing how that works. So tell us a little bit about how the company started. Like, what drove you to make that decision, and what made you think you had the confidence to do it?
Well, I've been very fortunate, Andy, because in the places I've worked in before, had fantastic teams, and in the environments that I find myself in, particularly in the police sector and the corporate sector, you could basically take these teams out and you would have a company, but because they were working within an organization, that's what they were doing. They're very intrapreneurial as opposed to entrepreneurial. And I've always had an interest in sustainability, sport, fitness, energy. And one of the biggest challenges I had in my IT career, for example, it came down to disaster recovery. It was energy. It was all about energy, systems, people, data. It was all straightforward. It was just about energy. But what really instigated the initiation of PeachyKeen was actually a fantastic member of one of my teams passed away at the age of 25, affectionately known as Big Malky or Malcolm. And that came as a real shock. And I was sitting at his funeral listening to his absolutely fantastic eulogy. And I thought he managed to pack into his life in 25 years more than some people had in double that time. And at that point, I decided that's it. It's if you don't do it now, Andrew, you never will. So that's when I decided to do something. And I always had an interest in energy, as I say, and in sport and human movement, and it was really combining these things. As for the name PeachyKeen, that was really inspired by a former PA who was from Australia, and she was always saying when I phoned her up, I might be in Aberdeen and she was down in Edinburgh, and I'd say, "How are things going, Julie?" And she'd say, "PeachyKeen, Andrew," which in essence meant fantastic in Australian. So it became our sort of go-to phrase. And it was really a combination of what happened to Malcolm, my experiences certainly in the corporate sector at that time. I thought, right, now's the time. So basically on the train home one night, I penciled together what I thought would be a good idea for a human energy company. And really that's where PeachyKeen began.
So tell us a little bit more about PeachyKeen, because you do have a very unique type of business, a unique product. What does human energy mean?
Well, for us, we liken it to like a renewable energy company. So, most people, when they talk about renewable energy, think about water turbines, sun, solar panels, etc., wind turbines. So it's exactly the same principle, except we're using human movement. And that could be somebody simply using a piece of gym equipment, piece of playground equipment, or something that's designed to specifically take movement, use a generator, create electricity, store it, and then use it as you would if you were using the sun or the wind or the water. So that is it in essence. We have a sort of fun element to it in a lot of the things that we do. For example, on Sunday there we did a human powered cinema for Green Action. So we had people powering the cinema, the actual projection and the sound, but in such a way that they could power it, they could stop because the energy was stored, and as it was beginning to run out, they had to start pedaling again. Through to this week, we're actually doing a lot of activities for a university, and today we've been putting the final touches to something that we've manufactured, a hand crank and a pedal device that's to go into a water play area at the Falkirk Wheel. So it's quite diverse. So in essence, PeachyKeen is a micro renewable energy company, because I think that sort of gives a more of a flavour of what we actually do.
You can almost tap into anything that requires energy and turn that into a fun event.
Well, absolutely. I mean, on the activity side of things, I mean, we do anything from smoothies to water turbines to Scalextrics to lighting massive trees in city centres. It really is down to the imagination. I mean, some of the opportunities, the places we've been have been absolutely fantastic. We get to work with, it can be primary schools, which are really inspiring because they've got great ideas, through to your corporates like Ford, who might want to promote electric vehicles, and they'll use us in a fun way to promote whatever it is that they're wanting to make people aware of, where they sort of get people in, get them interested, but do it in a practical way that they can relate human energy to the product, which in Ford's case was their new electric van. So it's a quite a breadth of things that we do, but in essence, we're about energy. It's nice to have these activities, but everything we do, we're doing our best to mitigate climate change where we can. It's very much in our DNA. And if you can use human movement in a fun way that's healthy, it's practical, and can in some way save energy that can be used again in a practical way, that's in essence what we're about.
Yeah, and it's engaging people in the notion of energy and climate change, and I mean, okay, awareness is always being raised, but you're doing it in such a way that will capture some people's attention and not make it a dry, unfun thing, but something that people can actually participate in.
Absolutely. I mean, we're very fortunate on that account. On the event side, it all came by accident because we were asked to do something at the Science Centre in Glasgow, of all places, and we thought it was completely nuts. And they phoned us on the Monday. They had this event on the Friday night. It was for adults. It was just for adults to turn up on the night in the Science Centre without their children so they could act like big kids. And they wanted us to make a balloon inflator. We thought, what? And we turned down a TV appearance because we thought this is completely nuts. And we took on two of our pedal devices, designed a machine, if you like, to blow up balloons and have people racing. And they had 2,000 people there that night. We were mobbed. We thought it was completely blindsided us. And then the following week, we in essence had an event side to our business because people started phoning us up and said, can you design this? Can you do that? A water turbine for Scottish Hydro to encourage farmers to use water turbines on the farms. So that, in essence, the events became a shop window for us. So it allows us to interact with people, market ourselves because we're getting more customers who ask us to build things or do other activities. But at the same time, it's spreading this message, as you kindly suggested, of sustainability and mitigating climate change.
So, Andrew, you told us kind of the story about what inspired you to start a business, Big Malky, and it's kind of a carpe diem sort of thing, isn't it? Like now's the time. Life is precious. Have you had people in your life that have inspired you during your business journey, during your entrepreneurial journey? People on the outside, role models, people that have pushed or challenged you?
Very fortunate. In the early days of PeachyKeen, we had this wonderful chap called Simon Beer, who was a real. He's invented things you and I will use that I didn't know about till he passed away, unfortunately. So he was a big influence on what we do. There's Scott, who really took the daft ideas in my head. He was a mechanical engineer and developed them in such a way so we could actually make things. I mean, you're put it this way: I was born to the right parents; they've been fantastic. I married the right lady in my life. I'm surrounded by fantastic people. We always seem to attract great people. My colleague Joe, over the last 5 years, has been made a big change to the business. It's taken us into another level. So, I've been fortunate personally. To have different people from all sorts of walks of life. We seem to attract really interesting people who want to help us. I mean, just now we've got a chap, Brian and Stuart, we call them the dream team. I mean, they're of a certain age. And I mean, Brian was involved in the design of what was which is now the European space rocket. He did the electronics on when it was a British version back in the 60s. So it gives you an idea of how young he is. So we seem to attract people like that, and it enables us to do sort of innovative things that are, because what we do is a bit unusual, and people do ask us to do some strange things.
What would you say has been your biggest learning as a business owner?
Biggest learning, if I can put it like this, when things are going wrong, if you can develop a positive attitude and believe that they're going wrong for a reason, and when they're actually going wrong, they're actually going right. But you might only realize that a few months or even maybe a year down the line when you look back and think, well, if I hadn't had that catastrophe and all these things going awry, we wouldn't be in this successful place at this moment in time.
Yeah, wow. That's a big one. I guess as long as you've responded the right way, because it's easy to just quit and say this is too hard, when the universe throws problems at you, right? So there's a resilience that's required.
I think there is. I mean, I've been lucky in some of the things, personal life experiences, and some of the things I've done with people in the past. And if you've got a solution-based mind and you really can keep a positive attitude, you can see the potential and you believe it, you've just got to stick with it. And it's amazing because when you do and it suddenly becomes right, or something better comes out of the situation that you didn't expect, that gives you more belief. And I'm of an age now where I can categorically say that's what happens to me anyway.
Yeah, there's always going to be problems, and that's never going to end. But business owners need to be problem solvers rather than fretting because we have a problem. Let's just go, okay, here's the next problem we have to deal with, right? And just have a different outlook on it.
I think you have to relish that. You have to enjoy it in some way. As daft as it might sound, I mean, I used to have a boss in another life, and he was really demanding, and but I convinced myself that I really enjoyed getting a doing every couple of weeks. I really enjoyed it, and I did. It became a sparring match, and it was a battle of wills in many respects. But I really believed if you keep a relaxed, calm, open mind and a positive approach, things will work out. A solution will appear.
A solution will appear because, and okay, it'll appear, but to be fair, you're making it appear, right? We're thinking with that rational mind, staying calm, and we're being solutions based. So in a way, we're creating solutions, even though they may appear as if they're appearing.
Yeah. Well, I always just believe I'm surrounded by genius. I'm just a nutter in the middle sometimes. It's really other folk that are the real
Yeah,
smart ones.
fair enough. What would you say has been your biggest challenge during the years?
Uh, oh my goodness, that's a good one. I would actually say it was when Simon passed away because that came as a shock. He was a really smart, intelligent chap. And for me personally, that it made me realize there was a big vacuum in knowledge that I didn't have, and it was filling that vacuum. And it was
Yeah.
adapting to thinking like how you would think, if that makes sense. And by doing that, somehow we managed to work through that challenge. But I'd say that was the most of an impact during the time with PeachyKeen.
So he had a lot of knowledge in him that the rest of the team didn't have.
Absolutely, particularly well, me in essence, I didn't have because. And he was, though he started out with the business, he was becoming more into the business, and he was of a certain age as well, but not. I mean, he passed away at the age of 62.
Hmm.
Uh, but it was just the fact that the word genius is used sometimes too much, but he really was. I mean, as I say, I didn't find out till he passed away that he did amazing things for somebody who had dyslexia. That we never even knew about, in the aeronautics industry, for example. And but he just had a way of just solving things, making things work. Taking the daft ideas in my thick head and making it into a practical, physical
Yeah.
item.
Well,
So
yeah, there's ideas people and then there's implementation people.
yes, yeah,
And the two are not often the same. You can't have both necessarily. Or if
yeah,
you are an ideas person, you need to surround yourself by people that can action these things. I mean,
yes.
that's probably a learning I've taken over the years. That's great. That's good. What so what's so Andrew, what's the next big thing for your business? What do the next 1 to 3 years look like for you in terms of opportunities and growth and challenges?
Well, I think this year really is, I think, going to be a really exciting year for us because we're involved in a project of our own initiation by accident in many respects called the 5P project. We call it 5P because nobody could come up with a better title, but it came about through an article we wrote during COVID in the Fife Free Press. And 5P stands for people, place, planet, prosperity. And with the fifth one, we thought PeachyKeen, so it makes it nice and has a flow to it.
Yeah.
And in essence, we're using our workshop, the building I'm sitting in just now, as a proof of concept. In essence, that can be replicated on the high street. By what we mean by that is the building itself creates its own energy. It grows its own food using hydroponics. It manufactures its own products using clean technologies like 3D printing, for example. From our perspective, our core business, we have elements of our gym equipment, etc., uh, for keeping people fit and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Retail, as in we're taking what we have and selling it. And the idea was really just written in based on an empty Marks and Spencer's building down the high street in Kirkcaldy. It's a fantastic building, and nothing's happening with it. And we looked upon it, thought, what could we do with that? And it was just a daft suggestion. And before we know it, people are approaching us and saying, well, can we do this? So we're using our building, as I say, for a proof of concept. And the idea is once we've got all these elements working together, we've got a model that we can replicate on the high street. And if we can do it down the high street, then you've got a blueprint that can be used in other high streets around Scotland or the UK, where you could take a building, look at it and think, how much energy can this create using renewables? What sort of food could we grow within a square metre, say, that would make it viable? And what other elements can we put into this building to make it completely independent from the grid? So in essence, that's what we're doing right here. So we're in a building that's virtually off grid with wind and solar. We've even got a water turbine in to show what we can do. We've literally developed an element where we've got an urban farm growing microherbs, which we'll be working on this afternoon. Each element has to be shown to be viable financially as a business in its own entity, if you like. We know we've already got an outlet for that. So for us, this project it encompasses a lot of the things that we do already, the practical things, creating energy, storing energy, using energy in some beneficial way, but it's taken it to another level. And that's in essence what we're really focused on just now is this. I hope that makes sense, by the way, this 5P project.
Yeah, it sounds like it makes sense. It sounds pretty, more maybe more complicated than my tiny brain can process. But I'm going to keep a close eye and see how it materializes. That sounds amazing. Well, while you were talking, it was just making me think that, the genius of your business, Andrew, to me anyway, is you've got a fairly basic concept as a base product, which is human energy, but it can be applied in so many different formats, in so many different markets, to so many different target audiences. Like adaptability is something you're going to have for the duration of this business, isn't it?
Yes, most definitely. It's only when I listen to somebody of your expertise and knowledge and wealth of knowing different businesses that it makes us appreciate that that is the case. We're very fortunate. There are so many opportunities for us, but we're really just focusing on certain elements just now and making them all viable.
What advice, Andrew, would you give to other business owners who are just starting out on their own, or people who are thinking about starting out on their own? What advice would you give them based on your own experience?
I think you've got to have a passion for it. I mean, really be passionate for it. You have to have a positive attitude and self-belief. Uh, that is key, and a determination and a persistence. But if anything, you have to have a goal. You've got to have a target, even if you physically can't see it. You've got to see it in your mind. We all have to have one, and that to me is key. You need to know why you're doing it, and then
Yeah.
everything else sort of falls into place.
And, I remember you saying at the start of our conversation about if you love what you do, you're never really working a day in your life. And I know that quote. But you can choose to love what you're doing already. It doesn't mean you need to necessarily abandon your current career trajectory and go find something you love, right? We can choose how we feel about what we do, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a great believer in that. It's if you what's the expression? I think it comes from the Marines. If you can't get out of it, get on with it. You know what I mean? And if you can
Yeah,
be the best that you can be doing what you're doing right now, and understand that thinking will allow you to move to the next level, to enable you to get where you might dream about getting, but be the best that you can be, whatever it is you're doing right now.
absolutely. And the other thing you said, which caught my interest, was the self belief. Make sure you have self belief because you need that, right? You need a lot of like all these problems and challenges that we are talking about earlier that are inevitable. It's how we respond. It's our resilience and ability to pick ourselves up. But easier said than done to summon self belief. It's just, oh, they say we need self belief, so I'll now have some. Sometimes we need to go and get it, right? Like sometimes we need to go and find other people to infuse confidence and self belief in us. We need to read the right books, hang out with the right people.
Yes, absolutely.
You sound like you had some of those people in your life that have
Definitely.
helped you on this journey.
Absolutely. I mean, I spent 6 years of my life at believe it or not, the Scottish Police College a long time ago, and they were really much into it was a can-do attitude. They always had people like yourself coming along to do talks and get us to think how we used our minds. As a former athlete, track athlete, I was very much into psychology and human performance. Getting the best out of you. It starts with the mind. So I've been very fortunate. I've had that training. But I think it's key to find people to more than just mentor you, but just know how to turn on the switches, if you like, program you a little bit to enable you to do it for yourself.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, definitely. Look, Andrew, I could talk to you all day about this stuff because I love the human psychology of resistance and self belief and persistence, but we don't have time. But it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, Andrew. So thank you so much for being on the show.
No, thank you, and thanks for listening to me. I really appreciate it.
Well, we've been speaking to Andrew Bowie from PeachyKeen, human energy company based in Kirkcaldy and Fife. And I've been Andy Goldberg, and thanks to all our listeners once again for tuning into the Founders Chair podcast, and we'll see you all again soon. Thanks again, Andrew.